Despite shutting Kamaru Usman's lights out with a brutal head kick to win the welterweight title at UFC 278, Leon Edwards does not get the respect he deserves, mainly because many think that his win was nothing but a fluke. Will he still be considered lucky if he knocks out Usman again? Probably not. But the real question is, can he do it all over again? Well, you bet he can. Here are the 3 reasons why Leon Edwards will separate Kamaru Usman from his consciousness once more at UFC 286. Leon Edwards' striking is deceptively good. You see, Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman are tied at 1-1. In their first fight in 2015, Usman used his wrestling to churn out a comfortable decision win.
Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare, Usman!
Whereas in their rematch at UFC 278, Edwards pulled off a spectacular comeback knockout victory to dethrone his arch-rival. Now, the trilogy, which will be taking place in Edwards' home country of England, will keep fans at the edge of their seats. Leon Edwards is one of the most technical strikers in the UFC welterweight division. He is deceptively good and criminally underrated. A tall and rangy technical kickboxer with a game plan that revolves around counter-striking, Edwards makes the most of his range and mostly fights from the outside to make better use of his jabs and feints. Unlike most southpaws, Edwards utilizes jabs to create openings for his punches and bunches. He is also deceptively good with his kicks, the perfect example of which we saw against Kamaru Usman at UFC 278. Nearly a minute before the end of the 5th and final round of the UFC 278 main event, Edwards faked a jab and threw a straight left. Usman parried and slipped off to his right to avoid it, but instead ran right into a brutal head kick that ended the fight and the Nigerian's dominant reign as the welterweight champion. Edwards' unpredictability is what makes him so much more dangerous than he may appear. When his opponents expect a jab, he lands a rear kick, and when they anticipate a kick, he stuns them with straight rights and uppercuts. He is a terribly difficult puzzle to solve on the feet, even for a guy like Usman, who is constantly improving under Trevor Whitman. Although a major chunk of Edwards' striking game revolves around counter-attacking, his ability to shift gears and push the pace is tremendous. Additionally, Edwards is pretty good at kicking off his back foot and following his high kicks with a lunging left hand. In the clinch, he's above average, and he constantly lands damage in clinch and on the break with devastating accuracy. The Brit is truly a multi-dimensional striker who excels at both offense and defense, which is why he is a tough cookie to crack for Usman. The Nigerian isn't a slouch on the feet either, and is a nightmare for his opponents when he gets going. Usman's jab is his go-to weapon, and he used it to perfection at UFC 258 against Gilbert Burns, who was stopped in the 3rd round. The reason why his jabs are so successful is that he has a significant reach for a welterweight, and he is able to touch his opponents without getting countered. Edwards is a big welterweight himself, which is why he cancels out Usman's reach advantage. Another key element of Usman's striking game is his stance switching, distance management, and smart kicking game. But unlike Edwards, Usman is slightly more flexible in the sense that he approaches each fight in a different way. Moreover, being a wrestling specialist serves him pretty well also, as he is able to use his level change feints to keep his opponents on their toes. Although Edwards is a striking specialist, he is very conservative compared to Usman, as he only lands a little more than 2.5 significant strikes on average per minute, whereas the former champion lands 4.5. Defensively, Edwards is slightly better. Both he and Usman absorb more than 2 strikes per minute on average, which is impressive to say the least. Make no mistake about it, Usman is a very capable striker, but he'll be the second best for as long as the fight stays on the feet. That is why he needs to take the fight to the mat. But will he be able to secure his takedowns and control Edwards on the ground? Well, why Usman won't have a lot of success in wrestling. Now, this is a bit of an unpopular opinion, but there are reasons to believe that Usman won't have as much success in wrestling as he did the last time around at UFC 278. Usman is one of the best wrestlers in the division, but his peers are constantly leveling up as well. And Edwards in particular has grown leaps and bounds since his loss to Usman in 2015. He's a fantastic grappler himself and even took Usman down in the first round at UFC 278. But from the second round onwards, Usman was able to execute his game plan better and had a lot of success with his takedowns. Edwards thinks that much of Usman's success was down to him running out of gas due to a high altitude in Salt Lake City, Utah, where the fight was taking place. Now, one might say that Edwards was trying to make excuses because he was struggling against Usman, but Rocky wasn't the only one who complained about it. Several other foreign fighters also complained about suffering due to a higher elevation. Back home in London, Edwards won't have that problem, and he will physically be at the peak of his powers, which will not only allow him to defend Usman's takedown, but also turn the tables on him, like he did in the first round at UFC 278, where he became the first person to take Usman down in the UFC. Edwards is also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he has the skills to submit Usman, but the likelihood of that happening, it's pretty low. Usman will have a slight edge in the grappling department come fight night, but can he keep his cool in enemy territory? Can Usman overcome that psychological barrier? The first two fights between Leon Edwards and Kamaru Usman took place in the latter's home country, but this time around the champion will be defending his throne in his own backyard. Being only the second British champion in UFC history after Michael Bisping, Edwards will have the support of an entire nation behind him. And given how passionate English fans are about their heroes, Usman will be facing quite a lot of hostility. Add that to his knockout loss that will be at the back of his mind when the cage closes in London, and Usman will feel more pressure than he's ever felt before. And overcoming multiple hurdles at the same time will either bring the best out of him or make him live through another nightmare. Usman is tough as nails, mentally as well as physically, but his knockout loss to Edwards may make him overthink, and that could lead him into making fatal mistakes come fight night. It's very likely that he will stay at distance or avoid trading leather with Edwards at all and shoot for takedowns right from the word go. If he succeeds in securing takedowns, good for him. But if he fails, it will be a big blow for his morale, and that will give Edwards several opportunities to crack the holes in his foe's game wide open once again. Now, despite the fact that Usman is a sizable favorite ahead of the fight, he has his back against the wall, and his mental toughness will be tested big time when he takes on his arch-rival in one of the most intriguing trilogies in UFC history. Final verdict. So with that, it's time for our final verdict. Both Edwards and Usman are ahead of the curve currently, and a third fight between the two will be much closer than their first two bouts, but ultimately, Edwards will earn another knockout win against Usman in the latter rounds at UFC 286. So who do you guys think will win? Give us your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you liked our video, please subscribe to the channel and smash that little bell icon next to it so you get notified the next time we upload one. As always, thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.